3406.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to have another look in TIDRADIO TD-H3 and the firmware that is developed by Marcus Dudley, which is called nicFWrmware. I made a video the previous week about how to restore the TIDRADIO TD-H3 from the kill stun mode if you ever come across it, and playing with firmware might make that happen. Now, before we start, I have to clarify that, as it goes for other radios, that playing with firmware files and hacking your radio is your responsibility, and as you can understand, you can't blame anyone for this if something goes wrong. So, now let's see how we can proceed with the first steps of passing nicFWrmware in the TIDRADIO TD-H3. As you can see here on the side, I have my H3, which is in stock firmware. I have some channels passed in its memory, just for example purposes. And before we start, I recommend that you do this also, because we're going to need that later. Open CHIRP and download the memories from the radio. We're going to select them all and export them as CSV. Remember, we don't need the save file from CHIRP, we just need to export them as CSV, because we're going to need them later to pass them on after we have flashed nicFWrmware. Okay, here are the memories that I saved as a CSV file. Something important you could also do before going to nicFWrmware and while you're in stock firmware is to back up the power setting of your TIDRADIO TD-H3. I will put a link with a zip file with two versions of the executable of TXPower. One is the one distributed by TIDRADIO and the other one is a fixed one by nicsure. And while you're in stock firmware, you can connect your radio as usual with a USB cable or the Kenwood plug, select the appropriate COM port and read these values from your radio. Save this file and keep it, because you might need it later to adjust the power levels of the TD-H3 with nicFWrmware. And now we can check Marcus's page for the firmware. I'm going to put links for nicFWrmware in the description of the video, of course. This is the website, nicsure.co.uk, and here in the first page you're going to need to select the forum for the TIDRADIO TD-H3 and TD-H8 firmware project. After that, you can scroll down and go here that says nicFWrmware and select nicFWrmware H3. Now, there are nightly builds with the progress that he's making, and there are also more stable builds, the releases. I would suggest, if you're new to this, to go with the release. Do not test a nightly build. This is the latest one that we're going to see today, version 1.04.32. You select this, and this is the changelog if you want to read it, and down here is the file that you need to download. Now, I have already downloaded those files and I have them here on my desktop. If you open the zip file, you're going to find all those files inside. This is the firmware file, the bin, and here is the nicFWprogrammer. Now, this program that Marcus has developed is going to be your command center for the TD-H3. You can do anything from in here, and some things that you can't do in other radios. With this program, you can also flash the firmware, so you can have your radio with nicFWrmware. Let's see how this goes. Alright, when it opens, you will see that there are some default channels here. We do not need those, so I'm going to right click and go to clear all, confirm. Okay, now we have the programmer clean of channels. So let's flash nicFWrmware. You have to select the right port here, press flash, select the file that came with the zip file. As you can see is the one that I said before, 1.04.32. Open, and down here you will see that it gives you instructions how to flash the firmware to the H3. Turn off the radio, hold PTT, and turn on the radio again. And as you can see, flashing has started. And it's done. Okay, now before we proceed, we can pass the channels that we had in the stock firmware to nicFWrmware. In order to do that, we're going to need the file that we exported from CHIRP as CSV before. You're going to select here import, find the file that we exported before, and as you can see, the programmer reads the file and has the channels that you had programmed ready to pass to the radio. Before we start playing with the settings, I would suggest to write the channels into the memory just to have something in your radio. Down here, you're going to press write, and channels are passed into the radio. Do not worry if you see on the screen strange symbols or anything weird in this starting phase of flashing the firmware, because we haven't configured any settings yet. Now, there are a lot of things to check here in the nicFWprogrammer, but we're not going to see them all today. There are really a lot of things you can do. We will just check the settings tab a bit. Okay, let's check the settings one by one. Squelch, of course, squelch tail. I put it around 3. Squelch tail elimination, you can check both. Step FM, AM, and USB, you can leave them as they are, or you can change them to your liking. LCD brightness, LCD timeout, how long the screen is going to stay on. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to put it to 0, so it will be on all the time. If you want keytones or voice, the other settings down here, I'm going to leave them as they are for the moment. I'm going to change here the battery style to %, dual watch on, because I need dual watch in my radio. I don't care about Vox level or tail. Transmit timeout is 2 minutes. I'm going to activate also the dual PTT. This is how you can wake the screen, pressing the keys or when it receives a transmission. I will also leave some other settings here as they are, and maybe we're going to see them in another video. I will change ultrascan to 6. I will put my call sign here, so it can be displayed in the power on screen, and power save to 25. The maximum value of power save is at 50, so I will put it in mid 25. Now, we made some basic settings here. We can pass them to the radio, so we can have a base to work upon from there. These are the basic steps to go from stock firmware to nicFWrmware in the current version 104.32. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, press like and subscribe to my channel, and see you next time.